How's it going, you awesome bunch of bakers? Hope you're having a great day so far. Welcome back to another video. Today I have another great addition to the Flatbread playlist. Let's get in the kitchen and get started. Once again, I'm revisiting one of my old recipes and updating it to fit with my current baking style. This bread recipe used to require a long autolyzation, a pretty long slap and fold session, and several folds, all of which are time consuming, messy, and totally unnecessary. This new version only requires a couple of folds and no kneading at all. And it skips the autolyzation altogether. The result is pretty much the same, if not better. All of my old recipes can be made without kneading, and with just 1 or 2 folds. We have whittled down the bread making process to its bare essentials. No more time wasting, and no more big mess to clean up. So let's get to it. Let me show you how to make this beautiful bubbly bread. For the dough, we'll need some white bread flour, yeast, salt, olive oil, and water. For the topping, I chose some poppy seeds, fennel seeds, sesame seeds, linseeds, caraway seeds, and some dried garlic granules. There is much customization to be had here. When it comes to the equipment, we'll need a tray lined with non-stick baking paper, a bowl, scales, a dough scraper, and a temperature probe. Right before I start, I'll just mix up the topping. You can use any seeds and any seasonings that you can imagine. It is totally up to your taste. You want more seeds? Increase the amount, but just be careful with the most fragrant seeds. It might get overpowering. Right, let's move on to mixing the dough. And it all starts with temperature control. My kitchen was quite cool on the day of baking, as around 18 degrees Celsius or 64 degrees Fahrenheit. That's why I'm using quite warm water here, as around 28 degrees Celsius or 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Now for once we're going to ferment this dough at room temperature. But if you want to, you can cold ferment it, of course. All you need to do is place the dough in the fridge after mixing, and still give it a couple of folds. Right, to make the dough, combine the water, yeast, salt, and olive oil in a large bowl. Give everything a good mix, dissolve the salt and yeast. Then add the white bread flour, grab your dough scraper, and mix it together. This dough will be quite loose and sticky. It has a hydration of around 76% and it has 10% oil in it. And that is why the old recipe required all the extra steps. Back then, I didn't have much experience with no-knead baking. I didn't know that you could just mix the dough, leave it to rest, give it a couple of folds, and that the gluten will develop just passively sitting around. I remember having to use the slap and fold kneading method for any high hydration dough. It creates such a huge mess on the table, and it takes a long time too, 10 to 15 minutes sometimes. And many folds are usually also not necessary. 1, 2, or 3 at the most will be sufficient for any dough. There are still quite a few recipes which I need to convert to my new baking style, and I can't really complain. I'm having a great time doing it. And it's also good because we can expose any new viewers to the old recipes. And if you are new here, and if you would like to learn some principles and methods of bread making, head over to the Principles of Baking playlist. There are 70 videos there to teach you everything you need to know. It has come to a point where I don't have much else to add to it. If something is not there, I haven't learned it yet. Anyway, enough about that, let's get back to our dough. Give it a quick temperature check after mixing. You want it around 24 degrees Celsius or 75 degrees Fahrenheit. If your dough turns out warmer, it'll ferment more rapidly. If it turns out cooler, it'll take more time. In either case, just keep an eye on it and adjust the fermentation times up and down accordingly. But even at the correct temperature, the dough will ferment quite rapidly. Bulk fermentation won't take more than 1 hour and a half. We will punctuate the bulk fermentation with 2 folds at 30-minute intervals. As I already explained, folding replaces kneading in recipes such as this. For the first fold, the dough will be very loose and soggy, so what you want to do is wet your hand with water, release the dough from the bowl, and then fold it over itself while it's going around in a circle. Keep going until it starts feeling relatively tight. Once you cannot fold it easily anymore, you can pick it up and turn it upside down so that the seam is at the bottom. After performing the fold, cover the dough up and leave it to rest for another 30 minutes. Now we can perform the second fold. At this point the dough will be a little bit more stretchy and a little bit more cohesive, so we can use the coil folding method instead. You still need to wet your hands with water and release the dough from the bowl, but then pick it up by its sides, let it hang down and roll it underneath itself. Fold it a couple times, then turn it and repeat the same steps. If the dough starts sticking to your hands, just wet your hands with more water. Okay, after performing the second fold, place the dough back into the bowl, cover it up, and leave it to finish bulk fermentation for another 30 minutes. It's been an hour and a half, the dough is nice and puffy. We can perform the final shaping before the final proof. And there's just another coil fold. It's important to remember to perform each subsequent fold more gently than the previous one. By now the dough is bubbly and full of gas, and we don't want to knock that gas out of it. So wet your hands, give it a gentle coil fold on all sides, and now it's ready for the final proof. Bring over your non-stick paper lined baking tray, pour some oil into it, and then pour some more oil onto the dough. Spread the oil out across the tray, rub it into the dough, and then place the dough in the middle of the oily tray. And now it's ready for the final proof. There's no need to cover it because it's already oiled, and the final proof should not take more than 1 hour. If you do cold bulk fermentation, it might take a little bit longer, but you'll clearly see when it's ready for the oven. Right, towards the end of the final proof, turn on the oven to 200 degrees Celsius, fan on, which is 390 Fahrenheit. If your oven doesn't have a fan, go for 220 Celsius for 430 Fahrenheit. Okay, now we can give it a nice stretch and create a beautiful design on it. So gently stretch it out by the sides, so just a little bit bigger. Be sure to keep your fingertips nice and oily. And now use all your fingertips to press lines across the dough. And you really want to press hard, go straight down to the tray. That way the bread will keep that shape. You can make the space between the lines wider or narrower, it's up to you. There are a few other things you can make with this dough. If you don't do the lines, simply top it with some roasted vegetables or just with some olive oil and sea salt, it'll be a focaccia. Or you could stretch it out even thinner and make a pizza. Another thing you could do is not use any oil at all. Instead, after bulk fermentation, you could drop it out on a floured surface and cut it into little squares to make ciabatta. Then proof them on the tray with some space in between them and bake them like that. There's so many things you can do with just a white floured dough. You can probably come up with much better ideas than what I just suggested. Anyhow, let's move on with our seeded flatbread. After you've done all the lines and made it look nice and neat, take the topping mix and sprinkle it evenly all over the surface. One thing I forgot to do is to press the topping into the dough using the palms of my hands. That would make it stick a lot better, so you should do it. But anyhow, this thing's ready for the oven, so let's get it in there. It'll take around 17 to 20 minutes to fully bake. And once it's golden brown all over, it's ready. So let's get it out of the oven and see what we made. And that looks pretty damn good if you ask me. It is super light, super puffy, covered in a delicious mix of seeds. And my kitchen smells amazing right now. I am once again very happy with the result. It just proves to me that kneading is a waste of time and energy. Sometimes people tell me, oh, but the folding takes time, so I might as well knead it. I think all 3 folds combined didn't take more than a minute. And anyway, if you're working with a soggy dough like this one, it'll still require folding after you've kneaded it. So it's a totally pointless effort, unless you really enjoy doing it. But whatever floats your boat, I guess. I'll just keep on updating my old recipes because I'm having a great time. And if you have any suggestions for any updates, do let me know. And don't forget to check out the flatbread playlist. There's a whole bunch of delicious flatbread recipes there. And let me know which one's your favorite one. So what do you think this bubbly flatbread? Have you ever tried something like this before? Let me know down in the comments. If you want some videos like this one, click over here. Subscribe to the channel, click right here. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.